Okay, guys, this is my name is Michael Steele, and I'm good on the camera, but I'm not going to be showing my face. I just wanted to actually delve into one of my favorite games ever made. This is my favorite game ever made. Now, if I asked you what's your favorite movie ever created, or what's your favorite color in the whole wide world, or what's your favorite video game ever, not three, not one, not two, but one. I mean, yeah, one. So I said that wrong, but yes. Can you just pick one? I can. Now, it's tricky because I just want to talk to you a little bit about this game specifically because it's my favorite video game ever to this day, and this was made in 1996, which was fucking years ago. We're talking about almost like 2 decades ago, almost. I think it is Is it 2 decades? I don't even know. It's been over a decade. Let's put it that way. I think it has been almost. I think it's been about 2 decades. 1996, and it's 2014 now. That's almost pushing 2 decades. Anyway, long story short, the first video game I ever played was Donkey Kong Country. That was made in 1994. Playing Donkey Kong Country, well, honestly, I have to say, it was just amazing. This company right there, see? Nintendo Presents, Rareware, right in the bottom there. Oh, my mistake, this is in 1995. Now, this is Diddy's Kong Quest. Now, I'm not going to delve too much into the first one, but Donkey Kong Country was released in 1994, so it was a year before this game. Back in the old days, games were made relatively faster in succession to each other, because, there wasn't as much technology, but believe it or not, when Donkey Kong Country 1 came out, they put a lot of sweat and hard work into that game and did something very unique to create a graphical system and amazing soundtrack created by the legendary David Weiss, who created these amazing jazz-like amazing tunes which originally debuted in the Donkey Kong Country, which not only brought one of Nintendo's arch villains, just a big ape that threw barrels and stole a princess, into a legendary icon just like Mario. And now the top two, basically the top two rivalries for the top Nintendo dog is Mario, and right below it is Donkey Kong. I mean, Rareware brought this big gorilla to life, I mean, back in 1994, they created this game, and not too long after came along this sequel, basically. And right now I can't get out of here for some reason. That sucks, but how can I get out of here? Well, okay, how can I get out of here? Well, I do want to get out of here, but let me just tell you a little bit about the game, okay? I can't believe what I did. It kind of fucked up a little bit here. I should have kind of went to the first world so I could have got some shit. I'm an idiot, kind of. I'm stupid. Nonetheless, alright, so the reason why Donkey Kong Country 2 became my favorite game was because even though Donkey Kong Country 1 was the first game I've ever played, and it was also what got me into Donkey Kong Country, Donkey Kong Country 2 was my favorite out of the series. There was a trilogy, basically, they made. All made by the same team, Rareware, and brought to you by Nintendo Studios. Now, of course, the game was amazing. The first one, I'm saying, was great. I mean, there's no denying that. The first one was amazing, okay? But, as amazing as the first one was, and how it made me, love the game and everything about it, it really had more than just that. It was just It was the graphics, it was the jazz-like music, the crazy and beats that they brought by this amazing musician. David Weiss, his name is, and he's actually still around today, making the new Retro Studios recent Donkey Kong Country Tropical Freeze, which, in my opinion, still doesn't live up to the legendary Donkey Kong Country 2 Diddy's Conquest. This game is a legend in my book, and it not only is a legend to my book, but also to many players of the series. It just goes to show you that no matter how many other games that are amazing that have came out prior to this game has always had a special place in my heart. Donkey Kong Country 1, I owe all the credit to for getting me into and introducing to the Donkey Kong, family. Donkey Kong, and introduced me to him. To who Donkey Kong was, and Donkey Kong Country 2 was really like the liftoff for the game. This is the game that really brought it all together, and all the amazing graphics and 3D shelled polygons that they use, the in-game graphics that almost look like spectacular on the Super Nintendo, one of the best looking games for the system, were not only improved in Diddy's Conquest, but it also, improved on every aspect of its gameplay. Not only was it tighter and more fun, it was also more difficult, giving more of a rewarding challenge, but not impossible challenging, but to the point where you could almost say at its time was probably one of the most difficult platforming games for its time. And that alone makes it stand as one of the most difficult platformers for its time on the system, the Super Nintendo. Not only that, but one of the best-selling platformers, best-selling Donkey Kong Country games, and best-selling game period for the Super Nintendo, for the system of the Super Nintendo, and Donkey Kong Country games and Donkey Kong games in general. It's one of the best-selling. It was the 5th best-selling title for the Super Nintendo, raising unbelievable amounts of money. So it definitely got much more praise than the first one, and even after its sequel came out, the Dixie Kong's Double Trouble, which is a good one also, but this one compared to that one, all three of them are great. And I don't want to bore you, but this is basically all about Donkey Kong Country and why we're going to get into Donkey Kong Country. This will be a few videos, so I want to make this interesting. It might start off a little slow, but if you pay attention, you might understand why this game has such praise to it. And if you have never played this game, yes, it may be outdated, but even to this day, it may even be a game, even though it's made like almost 2 decades ago. 1995, I mean, that's a long time. That most gamers and even kids who are playing games and picking up games nowadays might not even know about this game. But they're basically, because, Donkey Kong Country have been rebooted by, Retro, which I praise for the difficulty they brought in that game. But this game, I'll get into more after, but let me just show you about this game. I'm not really going to focus on Donkey Kong Country 1. Let's just say Donkey Kong Country 1 was about Donkey and Diddy, both Kongs. One was, I think it's supposed to be his cousin, really. Then later it turned out to be his friend, his pal, but originally it's supposed to be his cousin. But in the second one, it takes place where you have to save Donkey Kong, so they call it Donkey Kong Country. But basically, all I'll say about the first one was that the first one was a breakthrough that really brought Donkey Kong into a whole new perspective on, video game players alike. They had a whole new perspective on this gaming character. Not only he's no longer a villain. This guy who turned him to be a villain, now to be a hero. So yeah, basically that's a letter left by Captain K. Rool. I kidnapped the lumbering fool Donkey Kong, and you will never see him again, blah blah blah, and he like does that pirate laugh. Now, if you played the first one, you'll kind of see some innuendos here and there. But, anyway, like I was saying, that's all I want to say about Donkey Kong Country 1, is that it remains true to Donkey Kong Country 1. Any great sequel would remain true to a great prequel, because the prequel was great, and without the prequel you wouldn't have the sequel, so you have to give love to the prequel, which was Donkey Kong Country. But the reason why this game was the best and better than the prequel was because it improved on the prequel in every way possible. Notice that in the first game, Donkey Kong Country, Diddy Kong actually was supposed to be a this is not a review, by the way. This is just all banter and information that you might have not known about the Donkey Kong Country series. I'm talking about the original trilogy, and a little bit about the new trilogy they're making. They haven't made their one yet, but they're going to. Retro Studios is making a new trilogy. For new gamers, but older ones like me are going to be more focusing on these ones. Now, anyway, getting back to that. So, wrapping up Donkey Kong Country 1 before I actually get into what this is all about. As you can see, I'm just going through a level right now and talking about Donkey Kong Country in general. So this game basically remained true to the first one. So as you see me going through this level, anybody who's played the first one and hasn't played the second one can pretty much tell that this is a typical Donkey Kong Country game, and it's very, very at home with what the first one brought you. Although the colors are very, very, the color palette is very, very broad and wide and, just colorful, plain straight up colorful. The enemies are interesting, and as you can see, there's definitely a unique theme here, correct? That may have a connection to Donkey Kong Country 1. So getting to that, so let's end Donkey Kong Country 1. Let's put it this way. Donkey Kong Country led to Donkey Kong Country 2 in a perfect way, because everything that it did great on, everything it hit home with, this game hit home with harder. It got not only to first or second or third base, but it hit home on every aspect of the game. And it hit home even on the aspects that Donkey Kong Country may have fell short with, because, they just tried an experiment with the first one. Luckily, they did a good job. We also have the new water levels, But adding 2 Kongs and taking out Donkey Kong Country, because you call it Donkey Kong Country, but it's really Diddy's Conquest. That's the game. It's really Diddy's Conquest. Because Diddy's Conquest is really the conquest of Diddy saving Donkey Kong. And, returning the bananas to, Donkey Kong Country Isle. Which, in a second, after I kind of clear all this out of the way, all the nostalgia, you can see in the distance, but I'll talk about all that in a little bit. Now, these are the new water levels, if you played the first one. Very similar, right? See that? Anyway, so the mechanics are very tight. The gameplay is really smooth. The difficulty is definitely up there. It's hard. It's a hard game. It is not easy whatsoever. But on a plus side, the game offers tons of different animal buddies. Donkey Kong Country 1 first initiated this with Rambi the Rhino, Espresso, Unguard, and a few others, but the only ones that were really truly useful were really Unguard and Rambi. So, as you would expect, the 2 best animal buddies stuck through, and they kept those 2. And with that being said, they also kept a lot of other things, like the classic bonuses. But in this game, there's a lot more to this Donkey Kong Country than just collecting bananas. This was a Donkey Kong Country with even more hair-tearing levels, um, frustrating boss fights, and hell-raising challenges that you would just go crazy over and just want to throw your remote at the screen. But in the end, I feel that it's all really worth it, because if you play this game enough, any level can be done, even if you go crazy. This game wasn't just the first, you know, uh, game with graphics like this, but I think it's like basically the only game, you know, the Donkey Kong Country series in general that has graphics like this. So I could say it's pretty much the only platformer that delivers graphics with cell shaded, rendered, computerized graphics that almost make these characters look 3D, making it not only the most fun, because again, the gameplay is really fun. Anybody who's played Donkey Kong Country 1, you know, again, I might have skipped past that, but Donkey Kong, was really supposed to be the main primary using, the character to use, kind of like Super Mario, and then when he dies, he becomes Little Mario. That was kind of like the concept behind it all, until they realized that Diddy was kind of like, his own Kong. So instead of him being just an extra life, he actually turned out to be more than that, and, people found that, you know, he's not just an extra life. Why don't we make them tag team? And they could determine which Kong they can use, and each one will have their own weaknesses. Kind of like, you know, where Donkey Kong is strong and can kill harder enemies, whereas Diddy is fast and nimble and can jump higher. So these two different Kongs were different in their own ways. One had a tumble salt, one had a cartwheel. Originally, it was going just to be an extra life, would be Diddy. Donkey Kong would be there, and if Donkey Kong died, you'd have Diddy as the extra. But that thought kind of just got thrown out because, as you could see, Diddy proved to be amazing enough to actually hold his own. Didn't take long either for Rareware to create the sequel to this game, where Diddy holds his own quest. They actually removed Donkey Kong out and replaced it with a character called Dixie Kong, which a lot of people loved because Dixie had the helicopter fly. And like I said, the mechanics in this game are amazing. Just the storyline really, really connected perfectly from the first one. This had a lot more substance than the first one, while delivering a great experience, and pretty much felt like an extension to Donkey Kong Country 1. Now, getting back to Donkey Kong Country 1, for those of you who have played it, you might remember that place right there. See where I am right there? That's Donkey Kong Country from the first game. This is the boat that you actually fought the last boss on. That's a spoiler alert, but you fight King K. Rool on this boat. The Galleon. Ships ahoy. King K. Rool's fights on that ship, and in this game you actually get to see where he came from. And I'm going to show you where he came from. King K. Rool came from what's known as Crocodile Isle. So we're going to go there real quick. Just to check this out. You can see here, after leaving Gangplank Galleon, which was the final boss fight that K. Rool took place on, apparently after that fight you have with him, Diddy somehow managed to sneak on board after the fight was over. He must have been returning back home to his Crocodile Isle, which is this crazy place. I can't show you the whole thing because right now I'm starting a new game. But I don't want to spoil it for you anyway. If I go any further, it basically leads a little higher up until you eventually reach the King K. Rool castle at the tippy top. King K. Rool's keep. In this game he goes by the alias of Captain K. Rool. Same guy, really. Kind of just flip-flopped because in the other game he kind of aborted his ship and, really he was a captain in that game, but theoretically, as now we know it, This is where all the Kremlins come from. All the Kremlins come from an island of their own, a country of their own. You know, Donkey Kong Country Isle, this is Crocodile Isle. And this is basically their home. And in this game, you're playing as Diddy and Dixie. Diddy and Dixie basically are playing in this game. And the story in this game follows right after the events after Donkey Kong Country 1. You defeat King K. Rool, and he, makes his way back somehow on his Gangplank Galleon ship back to, as you could see, from there back to his lovely abode, the Crocodile Isle, which takes, obviously, after you get off of the ship, you'll be visiting a number of worlds taking place on his isle, which consists of not only his ship, but the first area you'll visit that takes place actually after boarding the ship is Crocodile Cauldron, Creme Quay, which consists of like a lava pit place. You know, it's like a lava pit at the bottom of the at the bottom of the swampy swash bucket at the bottom of the island there, consisting of a cauldron of volcanoes and lava pits and swamps, which connects over to Creme Quay, again, like all swamps and thorny vines and reefs and stuff like that, sunken ships, eventually leading up to the prize and glory of where most of the Kremlins eventually, call home, which is Kremland, Crazy Kremland. A lot of the Kremlins seem to take, I guess, refuge once you get up to this, once you actually get on. You have to getting out of the shit bucklet here, the, I guess you can call it the little, the shitty, swampy, lava pit bottom. Go up the stairs, and there you are. You're finally making your way into the Kremlin's home. And would be, one thing starts to get really tough, I'd say. Crazy Kremland, it's called. Crazy Kremland is, basically a Kremland. I haven't really got up to this yet, but it consists of, the first level you'll visit is a hornet hole. This is another level that's pretty colorful. I mean, it's pretty fucking colorful. Not gonna lie. Again, the level designs in this game probably outbeat, by a long shot, I have to admit, Donkey Kong Country, again, by a long shot. Donkey Kong Country had the great graphics that Donkey Kong Country 2 still, and not only improved on, delivered, but also brought unique and interesting and bizarre and really, really colorful and interesting and adventurous, like, themed, level designs that had a lot of color to them. Packed full of, bonuses to find, tokens to collect. Not only did you get banana coins to save your progress, difficulty, being, chock full of Kremlins and, familiar faces such as the Zingers and familiar bosses such as the King, instead of the Queen Zinger, you get the King Zinger. You get a lot of familiar boss faces. You get a gigantic Neki, just like you did in the first one. And you actually fight him twice also like you did in the first one. There were a lot of great nostalgia here, and all the Kremlings pretty much had some good resemblance to, the Kremlins you saw, in Donkey Kong Country 1, except more elaborated with, costumes and more designed and guess more interesting, I could say. They added a lot more different kinds of mechanics, such as picking up the Kongs, throwing them at enemies, um, tricks such as like walking on, I guess you can call that honey, but also being stuck in honey too, so you couldn't walk, you know. But you could also grab onto honey and latch onto it too. So there's a lot of interesting things they added to this. They also added new things that you could use instead of ropes. They have hooks. I always like the honey. It was really cool. You would never see a level like this in Donkey Kong Country 1. But using that great graphic design, I feel like, this game was memorable from beginning to end. I mean, this game is a true, amazing platforming adventure. And anybody who loves Diddy Kong is gonna love this game because Diddy has always been my favorite Donkey Kong character, and for a lot of people it is their favorite. Some people like Dixie for the helicopter, and what's not to like about putting the best of both Kongs in one adventure, where Diddy Kong is now the main hero, trying to save his old pal Donkey Kong. This game is not only harder than Donkey Kong Country, but this game delivers a lot of fun too, and memorable, and just, a sense of drive that makes you want to keep going, Even if you die a few times, you just don't want to give up, You might want to give it a break and then, try again a little bit, but, the great thing about this game is, after playing it for a while, you will realize that eventually you will get the knack of it. Let's put it this way, it's very difficult, but by being patient, understanding the patterns, all levels are possible to be done. That's why it's amazing. When you play this game for the first time, you will be blown away at how difficult this game can get. In the first world, you may feel like, oh, this isn't too bad. I would say even up to the second world for some people. Once you get off the boat, it starts to get difficult, believe it or not. Some levels might be hard for you. Squawk Shaft is one of them, and not only did they fix up, the animal buddies and giving the Kongs new abilities, such as the piggyback ride and the toss, but they also added in new animal buddies. You probably don't know this guy. This game added in probably the most and efficient usage of the animal buddy system. Even compared to the third one. This game pretty much did everything that you could ask for in a Donkey Kong Country game, and they did it right. They pretty much removed all the, I guess, cliche animal helpers, and they basically replaced them with, I guess, animal helpers that were more useful, such as like removing Espresso. He really didn't help too much, and he kind of died a lot, and all he could really do was walk over like barrels and stuff, but he was very frail and had no defensive abilities. The lineup in this game was Rambi returns, Unguard returns, and believe it or not, Squawk returns. But I had a feeling. But believe it or not, Squawk was now upgraded. Now if you see Squawk, he's able to shoot nuts out of his mouth just like Necky can. And he doesn't just hold a lantern around. He's still very fragile, just like he was in the original. But he doesn't just follow you around and hold a lantern around. There's actually a new animal helper for that, which is, I think, Glimmer, his name is. There's two types of animal buddies. You're going to get, I forget this, Clapper, who actually spits water. He's a seal. And he freezes the water for you to make it cold, either creating ice or creating lava into water. And you'd have to, jump on Clapper to, create cool waters or ice, to move forward. So that's an animal helper right there. You have Squitter, the spider, basically replacing the useless running shoed Espresso, who couldn't be touched, mind you, but the reason I say he was the replacement is because Squitter, unlike Espresso, also can't be touched. But what he can do is he can use webs so he can avoid enemies a lot more efficiently than Espresso. He also wears those shoes like Espresso, and they're the only two buddies that wear those shoes, if you noticed. Him and Espresso are the only two that wear those little running shoes. And they're the only two that can't be touched by enemies. And he can also shoot from a distance. Very similar to Neki. Oh, not Neki. He's very similar to Squawks. Because as soon as he gets hit, just like Espresso, as soon as he gets touched by an enemy, he runs away. See? Just like that. He'll run away. And when he runs away, in order to get him back, you have to hop up on him like that. But luckily, they gave him a lot of stuff that'll help him fight back from a distance so he doesn't have to be worried about getting touched. And, they also improved the Winky, which Winky the Frog could have been good, but they decided to get rid of Winky and also revamp him and create what's now known as I think it's Slithers or Rattles. Rattle? I forgot his name actually. It's the fucking snake. Rattles. I think it's Rattles. Rattles a snake. But basically, Rattles the snake is basically an exact replica of what Winky was supposed to do. But Rattles the snake is a rattlesnake, so he does have a stinger and a protection at the end of his caboose, allowing him to not only bounce around, but be more stabilized when using him instead of having those scrawny frog legs. He does the same thing as Winky, except he was easier to jump with because he was a straightforward jumper, easier to control, and he was able to actually jump on enemies and kill them instead of having to use the bubble on his chin. He could just bounce and boink around. You just kind of bounce up and down, boinking around the level, just boinkity boinkity boink, hitting enemies, and while he hits enemies, he gets a super jump, if you knew how to do it. So yes, basically the lineup in this for Animal Buddies is Squitter the Spider, Rambi the Rhino, Unguard the Swordfish, Squitter the Spider, Rattle the Snake, and what else? Oh, Squawks the Parrot, and you also get the secondary animal helpers that you don't actually break in boxes, but that help you along the level. And there's a few of those as well. There's the one that's taking charge of what Squawks used to do. Like I said, Glimmer, the Glowfish, and Clapper the Seal. So it's a pretty big lineup, I'd say. I think there's other ones too. I'm not 100% sure yet, but I think there's more. Oh yeah, there's actually another Squawk. There's Quack, the blue. There's a purple parrot now. So you get two parrots. So there's Quack and Squawk. Quack can only pick up the corks of a barrel. That's why they call him Quack. Squawk can spit out nuts, calling him Squawk. But only difference about Squawk and Quack is that your enemies' lives consist of the lives of it pretty much consists of the lives of your Kongs. When Squawks dies, since you're flying with him, Once Squirrel gets hurt, he will drop a Kong. Unlike other animal helpers where you basically have the freedom to obtain your lost animal helper, this is a little different. This game introduces a lot of new stuff, but I don't want to bore you, and I will continue this in my next video. Alright, well, thank you for my introduction. This is just a little bit about Donkey Kong Country 2 and how I got into it. I'm going to revamp this and fix it up. So, I hope you liked the first segment. Again, I will be working on this and making it better. Thank you for watching.